a sense of the texture, the atmosphere, the tone. During the final days of the occupation, there was an American woman in Haiti, a photojournalist, blonde, young, infuriating, and she became Thomas Harrington's obsession. "Why have you never told me the story of this girl?" Harrington's wife asked, dumbfounded but curious. They stood in the kitchen of their gardenia-scented home in South Miami, finishing the vodka cocktail she used to celebrate his reinstallment into her landscape domain, its calibrated patterns, everything perfectly in its place except her husband. "Why have you waited until now?" she asked. A pained crinkle etched a border of mystification around the brightness of her eyes. Expecting an answer, she followed him through the house, upstairs to their sun-scoured bedroom, where he began unpacking his filthy clothes. "Here," he said with a hopeful trace of enthusiasm, "this is for you." And he gave her a gift he had brought from Port-au-Prince, a small but moderately expensive painting by Franz Zeffirn. And what should he tell her? That he had become too involved with a woman and too involved with the greater infidelities of the world, and would rather say nothing of both. If he told her everything he imagined correctly, she would want to leave him, or she would pray for the salvation of his distant heart, which was the salvation of a man in a time and a place in a country, and not the salvation of an immortal self. Because when Americans pray, they pray first that history will step aside and leave them alone. They pray for the deafness that comes with a comfortable life. They pray for the soothing blindness of happiness, and why not? But history walks on all of us, lashed by time, and sometimes we feel its boot on our backs, and sometimes we are oblivious to its passing, the swing of sorrow and triumph through humanity, sorrow and then, finally, crippling grief fading to obscurity, which is perhaps why Americans want little to do with history, why perhaps they hate it, why prayer comes easier than remembrance, which is how history knots its endless endings and measures the rise and fall of its breadth. And when history swirls around you and passes on, and you inhale its aftermath, the bitterness of its ashes and the bygone sweetness of time, and excrete history into memory, you never quite believe you had once heard its thunderous godlike whispering, that you had trembled in the face of its terrible intimacies, and you fell silent. Against this silence, Harrington understood it was possible only to speak to other silences. Why would you choose to expose such ugliness, if not in yourself, then in the world? For 2 years, Tom Harrington did not tell his wife, but now she would hear this story, enough of it anyway, that had so abruptly leaped far, far beyond his ownership, his private collection. And would she know him better afterward? Would she know him as he knew himself? And then what? Would she know him at all? His own story of this woman in Haiti was a fragment at best, it's important to say, but his silence was not meant to spare his wife from a betrayal, at least not of the sort she suspected. But there are many, many betrayals we visit upon one another, their forms infinite, some beyond comprehension, some no more serious than a quick sting. He had kept this story from her simply because he had gotten nowhere with it in his own mind and did not understand his role in its events, nor the meaning of its elements. And he suspected that somehow this story would always slip and tumble into the hole of self-indictment. Yet what had he done that was so wrong? What had he done that was not justified by the behavior of others? What was his sin? He could not grasp it, but in the recesses of his soul, he knew it was there. There were things you might say, stories you could tell, that would leave you diminished, that might outrage one's sense of conscience or morality with their failings and audacities, their reckless disregard for the well-being of others. Perhaps not in every life, though Tom rejected the very nature of innocence. But yes, some stories diminished the teller, or shamed him in the eyes of honorable people, and often these stories were never told, or only half told, rife with omissions, as Tom's would be with his wife. They lay quiet yet unpeaceful within the black cave of secrets that was a part of anyone's soul, and perhaps their silence was as it should be, the last asylum for propriety, for decency. It's extraordinary, his wife said, admiring the canvas. The gallery en Rue Pétuan had attained another Zephyrin, larger, more fanciful in its circus of cruelties, that he had wanted to buy for her but never had the chance. Why he told her this he couldn't say, because it was not true. It had simply fallen from his mouth, part of another story he was making up. She looked at him sideways, measuring what she must have imagined to be the careful implication of his voice. "Oh, do you have to go back to Haiti?" she asked, and he knew that because this was a busy time of the year for her at the office, she'd be unhappy if he was leaving again. "I can't," he said. They seemed to have been declared persona non grata. "Tom?" She was absently pulling clothes from a small canvas bag and tossing them into the laundry hamper, and she froze, gasping, her eyes wide and a hand raised to her mouth. "Oh my God," she said. "What's on these pants? Is this blood?" Her sweet, earnest face becalmed by the gentle tide of a comfortable life, filled with a look of mortification. Dutiful wife, instinctive mother, she sniffed at a patch of the stains, repulsed. They're covered with blood. There's so much of it, Tom. What happened? Yes, that. What happened? He would have to tell her something, but he did not know where to begin or where to end, and he did not know if she should ever know him so well, or how he spent his days when he was away from her. So that's how the book opens. That's the prologue. And at the end of that term, when the Americans left and the United Nations came in, I was still there for a few more days, and a freelance photojournalist, a young woman who looked like a 25-year-old Meg Ryan, she was beautiful, came and asked me at breakfast one morning at my hotel, "Can she sit with me?" Okay. She was really bitchy, dour, moody, not appealing, but gorgeous. And I'm a guy. Sure. Have a seat. And she said, "Can I ask you something?" And she's always looking down and always clapping her knees and really restless and really wound up tight. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Tell me about voodoo." "Okay, I can't. Do you know voodoo priests?" "Yeah, I've been there a long time. I know them all." "Will you take me to meet one?" "Yeah. You're sort of not a pleasant person, but you are a beautiful woman, and the dog can be a parasite on your beauty for the day, right? Beauty can be a get-out-of-jail-free card, just like charisma in guys can be a get-out-of-jail-free card. Look at Bill Clinton. So, it's that kind of dynamic that was happening there. It's not healthy or savory in any way, but I thought, yeah, this is a good way to spend the day. So I take her an hour north of Port-au-Prince into the countryside to go to a voodoo temple. On the way there, she says, and I only knew this woman for 36 hours. Within days, I had forgotten her name. She's a real person out in the world somewhere. I hope she's alive. But on the road drive there, she said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you think people have souls?" "Yeah." "Do you think people can lose their souls?" "I don't know." And then, after some, this, like this. She said, it's me. I said, it's you what? She said, it's me, I've lost my soul. I said, in the book, the guy goes on with a monologue about the mystery of God, and he riffs about souls. And all I said to her is, how the fuck did you lose your soul? What is that about? And we got to the voodoo temple, and you have to read the book to find out what happened there. But that first line of the book says, sorry to offend you.
No, you did not at all. I wish I could stay. I have to be somewhere.
Oh, God bless you. You know, I know I went to the F-bomb and everything, and Scully is so offended by that. He thinks that's ruined America, unlike Citizens United. But at that voodoo temple, so the first line is young, blonde, infuriated. Boy, she was so infuriating, I wanted to kill her afterwards. You'll have to read it to see, but I won't give away too much of a plot point by saying, during that, we walked in on a ceremony where the priest, as a last-ditch effort, was trying to heal a woman who was very, very sick, and she died at our feet. Just sprawling down onto the ground out of her chair, vomiting yellow bile, and the woman lost her soul. Went, ew, that's so gross. I'm going to show you. And then she starts bargaining for her soul. So read that to see. But I never saw her again after that. And when if you read this book, stop thinking that Charles Harrington is me after that, because he's never me again. And here's what a novelist will do with a humanitarian do-gooder. We'll compromise him. We'll put him in a moral position where he's done something wrong, where he has to question his own moral universe. And that's what happens to him, but that's not me. Just want you to know.